Hello everyone, Andrew Dornan here on the secondary channel with some more newsletters that I made a while back. So when we did part 1, we covered issues 1 and 2 of Pen and Paper News, as well as issue 1 of volume 2 of Gaming and Creating. This time around, I did find that final issue of Pen and Paper News, issue 3, which came out September 28th, 2016, and then volume 1 of Gaming and Creating. So I actually have a bit of history with this, and I'll go over that. Here, just to give you the timeline again with Pen and Paper News. First issue was written July 8th, 2016, well after the first D&D campaign, same with September 3rd, 2016, and then September 28th, 2016, which is actually right after I had conducted an interview with someone. So that was pretty great. It was my first time interviewing someone. I get really nervous with interviews, both giving interviews and receiving interviews. So that is fun. I'm going to put these over to the side, and we are going to go over Pen and Paper News, issue number 3, the final issue of Pen and Paper News. Finally, it took some serious head scratching, but I finally have this week's issue figured out. This is a quote that I said to a friend. Austin has just saved this week's issue. Austin Bailey is an old friend. Don't really get a chance to chat with him much anymore, but I met him in high school. Real cool dude. So, the interview that saved Pen and Paper News, it didn't really save Pen and Paper News, but it did make this issue possible. Interview with Austin Bailey with some stock photo of some dice. Before we get into the interview, special thank you to Austin Bailey for letting me interview him. It was very nerve-wracking for me. Again, whole interview thing. As I was waiting for class to begin, I thought about this week's issue of Pen and Paper News. At first, I panicked, but I quickly got myself together with the remembering that I thought about interviewing people about their history with D&D. And so this is a huge chunk of the page is dedicated of just like this. And since then, I have learned how to better write interviews. You can transcribe them, but there are other more efficient ways of doing this. So this is our guest, Austin. I'm going to start off with how'd you get into D&D, and then it's just a lot of like year instead of yeah. That's a typo. Right now, running with some friends. I put in I'm running it with some friends. The I'm and the it. There are some where it's like I couldn't necessarily tell if he had said that word or just omitted it, so I went in and put it in like tips for anybody looking to get into D&D. That was me. So all that, and then so that was honestly, I really liked doing the interview. It was definitely very eye-opening. And then here we have the third page. I think this goes on. Yeah, it's just 3 pages long. So future homebrew games. I don't mention anything about the Fallout Pen and Paper campaign, but I do mention our Galaxy Not to Share tabletop board game with the twist. It's designed from the ground up to be played with 2 individuals who live outside of reasonable driving distance of each other. Our Galaxy Not to Share takes place in some far-off galaxy in the midst of an intergalactic war. These players have a variety of ships and ground units, diplomats, and planets at their disposal to destroy all other life, create a grand peace treaty, or simply make as much money as possible. Angie Cannon and I are working on this project. I still have some of the design documents. I have some, like a very early draft of the rulebook. It never got finished. But the thing about all of these homebrew stuff is I still have the documents for them, so at any time, if I really had the drive to, I would go and finish them. Pokemon Pen and Paper rulebook progress is slowing down during our summer vacation to ensure that it gets finished before the Texas State Saga starts. With a footnote, a joke name I came up with to describe my time at Texas State University after watching too much Dragon Ball Z. Some news, Paizo announces pocket editions of Pathfinder rulebooks and B series. That I still think is really cool, just having like, you know, something that is really small, like, you know, like about this big. This is a little spiritual book, but whatever. So it was about that size. Definitely a bit thicker, but yeah. Presidential knife fight game up on Kickstarter. That was really cool. I don't know whatever came of this. I'll have to look that up at some point. But yeah, so that's it for issue number 3 of Pen and Paper News. So that is that newsletter. You can see a lot of, I said this last video, but you can definitely see a lot of the systems put in place that would become standard with the gaming and creating for its first volume. And the biggest one is this format. There's just something about this newsletter format that I really like. It is meant to be only like 2 pages long, kind of like this. Like, this is how long it should be, and then there's like, it really should be shorter with a little space left to, you know, put someone's like name and address, and then you put that in an envelope that has a window on it. But I did away with that because I was like, well, I'm going to use my own, my own envelopes, which don't have that window. So, yeah. Okay, so now, Gaming and Creating. This is Volume 1, all 12 issues. First issue came out December 2018. Last one came out November 2019. I started this, I don't have specific dates, but I do know that I probably, this was during my winter break from the Savannah College of Art and Design. We got like, I want to say a whole like month and a half off for winter break, which was really nice. So this is the first issue. I'm gonna put these aside, and we'll just go over them one after another. So let's try them again, this time with feeling. I admitted one thing that didn't survive is the idea of guest writers. So I just, you know, put my name, Andrew Dornan, no main writer, none of that bullcrap. So Gaming and Creating, you know, you can see it's the exact same as Pen and Paper News, except this time I went with blue, because I was using the YouTube channel that you guys are all familiar with now, and for the longest time, that channel's kind of brand color was blue. So Gaming and Creating, let's be real here, I tried doing a newsletter in the past, in the form Pen and Paper News. I loved doing it, but I didn't think anyone really cared whether or not they got another issue in the mail, so I just stopped it and never really went back to it. That is true. Now I've got friends who seem interested in this sort of thing, and by, you know, friends, I mean like 2 at the time, and then it grew to 4 people. 2 received physical copies, and 2 received digital copies. This continued well on into Volume 2, like I said last video, but Volume 2 sadly ended because of one thing, and we'll get into that. some things that have changed over time. This text font is really small. I upped that by a couple of points for future issues. So pen and paper news of old, like news of old, except it's pen and paper news of old. So I basically just go on to say that, you know, pen and paper ended at the same time as my my first tabletop RPG campaign. That's kind of true. First campaign as a DM. Image to the left, I still use the same newsletter that I download for pen and paper news. Simply due to the fact that I love the overall design. That's true. I really like the minimalist design, but also, if I can get over here, there is something that I like about, well, this is a newsletter, this is a magazine, but something about, you know, some nice designs, you know, it's like got a lot of color, there's a lot to it. You could argue this is somewhat minimalist, and you'd probably be right. I wouldn't want to argue with you. But yeah, so I just really liked the whole minimalist design, and that didn't really translate well to this, but it is what it is. Maybe if I ever do another magazine, I'll create some sort of template. So this is what is Gaming and Creating, which got the abbreviation GAC and a lot of internal file naming, and also with links for signing up, and also Brain for feedback. So what is Gaming Creating is basically me being like, well, it's going to be me talking about video games and also just, well, creating, both like in terms of making videos, making games, all that stuff. So everything was on the table. What of the future? Future is uncertain, that I know for sure. Again, very philosophical. I know that the mail center for SCAD is right next to my dorm complex, so sending these out won't be too much of an issue. Only thing that might keep me from releasing for a month or two at a time might be due to a lack of stamps and or envelopes. So yeah, as far as content goes, basically the same thing I said there. Reading this from a physical paper or on a physical paper, as I much prefer physical copies of written works over digital copies. That is true today. I still have notebooks for days, and in fact that magazine that I showed you, Nintendo Force, they have digital copies of all their old magazines, but I'm really hoping for the day they announce that you can buy physical copies of their older issues, because I would really like to get a complete set one of these days. Oh, real quick, this is so it's all in one place. You have feedback, link, and then also a way to sign up for a free subscription of the newsletter. And I did this just in case, you know, I sent out one-off copies to people from, like, you know, that ordered stuff from my Etsy shop, or like people that I was, you know, just talking to about, like, hey, I've got, you know, this newsletter, you know, I would like you to have a copy, and it's totally free if you want to sign up for it. That's a thing that I wanted to really hone in on, is the idea of making most, if not all, of the stuff that I create free for public consumption. So Gaming and Creating definitely ran at a loss well into Volume 2, because Volume 2 required a lot of paper and a lot of ink. So Gaming and Creating Volume 2, or Volume 1, Issue 2 is January 2019. New Year's resolutions, the biggest lies we tell ourselves. Yep, we've got Issue 2. Disclaimer, the next page contains logos of games that I personally enjoy. These are not paid advertisements. These may include thumbnails for my own projects. Another year has come and gone, and with that comes years, lies we tell ourselves. Some last a few months, some are broken the very next day. Let's try to set some resolutions. So, there were some resolutions I wanted to do. For starters, I would love to start up a second channel where I upload more Let's Plays without challenging the rule of two. The rule of two, an old, and some might say archaic format of Let's Plays, one main Let's Play and one side Let's Play, no more, no less. Yeah, I don't know if I really worked with that rule of two for the first 3 years of the channel that well, because as soon as, once it got to the part where I started making content more regularly, when one series ended, another series came right after it. And so I guess you would still call that, you know, only 2 Let's Plays at a time. Additionally, I think it would be interesting if I revisited the Game Guru Advance channel. Game Guru Advance was an old channel idea that I had where I would make various kinds of video essay, sort of video essay formatted videos on Game Boy Advance games, the Game Boy Advance system, anything relating to the Game Boy family. And in fact, the intro that you might see a lot of the time with my videos on the 12th Kind is actually a retooling of that old Game Guru Advance channel intro. I only got about 3 videos in before abandoning the concept, still haven't gone back to it. I'm still determined to keep this going through 12 issues, then put the continuation of gaming creating up to a vote. Yep, that happened. The only reason why Volume 2 exists is because I put a vote up for it, and 2 of the 4 people that signed up for this actually responded to that. So, yeah. A major issue with gaming and creating was there was no incentive that I could give to make people give me feedback, because that's what I needed the most with this, was feedback, so I knew what was wrong and what could be changed, what did people like, what did people not like. So, all that fun stuff. Be More Games, as I'm writing this, I'm close to 475 games in my library. That number has gotten a lot larger, thanks to the Humble Bundle and Humble Monthly, which I think now is just called Humble Choice. Throughout the next 10 issues, I'll have a chart at the very end that lists the games that I've started and currently working on and finished in that month. What if you don't reach that goal? I will, just you see, I did not. Feedback and subscription links. Yeah. Alright, issue number 3. This was when things started to get pretty long. There were a few issues. I think one was 8 pages long. This one, not as long. I think it's, yeah, only 3 pages. Oh, that's a long game, I said at one point. It's no secret I'm dedicated to my channel, and also in college. During my time in college, even back in high school, I've identified some interesting challenges and their respective workarounds. Disruptions and delays and troubles, oh my. That's a joke I sometimes use, it's really old. Far easier to do in a dorm setting than recording. Chances are you're only to record commentary if you need to make a correction, or if you want to, yeah. So, this is speaking from, mainly from experience with my Texas State University dorm, where the people on my floor were very noisy, especially just a few doors down. If you're looking right out the door of my dorm, it's the people like 3 doors down to the left. And in fact, one day they were getting really noisy and I just wanted some peace and quiet, so like I walked down to their door and it was wide open. I just like knocked on the door frame, peered my head around. I was like, hey, you guys are being really loud, and I was wondering if you could tone it down a bit because I'm studying for a really important test that's tomorrow. And that worked for a whole like 1 hour, and then they got really loud again. But hey, you know, that 1 hour was still good. School versus YouTube, if I'm going to be totally honest, is that if you're in school, college, or otherwise, YouTube, or Twitch for that matter, should be low on your priorities. I still stand by this. The only reason why I make so much is because I both procrastinate and am efficient with my homework. So it's like the homework that I end up doing, I'm very efficient with it, and it doesn't take me that long at all. But if it's something like, a big project, then I procrastinate, and then that's how I have time to work on other videos, because I'm not working on my homework. Something else I feel the need to address, everyone is different. College is usually easy for me, and I can arrange classes in such a way that allow me more time for a job or recording and or editing videos. YouTube is a passion project for me, and as such I want to put as much time into it. Heck, if I was able to focus on my channel for a time, I would do it. That is true. I must put my education and future jobs first, as those hold the keys to my next endeavors. That is definitely true. I still stand by that. You should definitely think about your education first and foremost. Games of February. So in the previous issue, I mentioned beating 10 games a month. And in February was the first time I brought in like this sort of like tracker kind of deal. So the games, Lost Planet Extreme Edition for the Xbox 360. I think I actually beat this one. I'm pretty sure. The problem is I always forget if I beat it or not, so I'd have to check backloggery. 8-Bit Armies. I actually got a good bit into it, but difficulty spikes like old Command and Conquer games, so it really leans into that. FTL and PC. I actually streamed that while I was at Savannah College of Art and Design, SCAD. And I got all the way, and I think I got the Rebel flagship down to a really low amount of health, and then I died, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to call that as a win. Because my personal headcanon was like, oh, that Rebel flagship has destroyed it. The last minute, send out the plans of the Rebel flagship or whatever to the rest of the fleet, and they destroyed it for me. Up next is yet another... Oh yeah, Spacecom. Spacecom is interesting. It's a very watered down 4X strategy game. It feels like it was probably made for mobile first. It says wear headphones for a more immersive experience, but all the immersive stuff is really just garbage. Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team. I found out that I'm actually horrible at Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, and I remember being better at it on the Wii version, and I was like, how could I have been better on the Wii version than the 3DS version? And I learned that the 3DS version of Donkey Kong Country Returns actually runs at 30 FPS, whereas the Wii version runs at 60, so that's probably one of the reasons. Camera's about to stop recording, so I'm gonna restart that. Alright, sorry about that. My camera only records to like 22 minutes, give or take. So, yeah. Never could... I got pretty far, I think, I want to say 3 worlds in to Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, which for me is pretty far, considering that I'm not the best at platformers. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, I played a bit of that. I never really got far in it, but I actually got that game because I bought, if I get this out, I actually got this little DS carrying case at my local thrift store, and inside were a bunch of DS games. Even a couple of Nintendogs, but they were like the same kind of Nintendogs. And in it was Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team. And so that was really good, especially considering our loose card's pretty pricey. Playing the Wii version a few years back, never did pick it up. Only briefly played the demo of the latest entry. Both are... Oh yeah, this was before Rescue Team DX, so the last entry was the one for the 3DS. And I did enjoy that, but I never felt compelled to buy it. I will say that Rescue Team DX looks very fun. feedback and subscriptions, and then also the game tracker. So this was just a real quick chart that I made in Microsoft Word, game, genre, past runs, if any, estimated run time. I don't know why I put past runs in there, maybe to make it look a lot cleaner. But I did manage to beat Lost Planet, I think. FTL, and then, yeah. Real quick, sorry for the lack of pictures. Printing can be a little iffy, especially with color. March was my last month at SCAD, and I had some leftover, like, printing credits, and so, because I hardly ever use them, like, at the lab, and so I decided to use them. Yeah, so that, and then also, one thing that I want to point out real quick, you probably saw in it, you're wondering why I didn't mention it. This thumbnail, for some reason, always gets cut off the bottom and the side. It looks perfectly fine in Microsoft Word, but when I print it, it always gets chopped, and I don't know why. Honestly, could not tell you. Maybe someone who's like a MLG pro at Microsoft Word can be like, oh, it's because you didn't use the Superstar or whatever. I'm joking. It's probably something with how word wrapping works, but honestly, I don't care enough. Issue number 4, March 2019. Well, this is going to be a long one. The making of Let's Play Heroes of Ruin. For a long time, I wanted a 3DS capture card, and thankfully, a few years after, the only US-based maker of 3DS capture units stopped selling, someone sold me theirs for only $200. That's a good deal, because for some reason people think that it's okay to sell loopy 3DS capture units for thousands of dollars, or even close to that, and it's absurd. Even Loopy has, like, crawled out of his cave to be like, hey guys, you probably shouldn't do that, it's kind of mean. Also, I guess that means I should make more cards, and then nothing. God bless him, though. I learned that the capture device that I use on my 3DS is actually a Katsukity board, and that's way worse, both in terms of actual build quality, but also in terms of the fact that the company no longer exists. So this is basically going through the process of making Heroes of Ruin. So basically, you know, I set up my my microphone and my headset and all that stuff, and then also I run the Katsukity capture software, which doesn't actually have any recording functionality, so I use Filmora Screen to record it. And then when it comes to editing, each track has a purpose. So you've got video 1, which is this parchment kind of texture that I put on there just to, so it wouldn't be black space. We've got game audio in audio 2. In voice is obviously my commentary. Video 2 is the bottom screen. Video 3 is the top screen, and then 4 and 5 is for when the bottom screen is the focus, and then video 6 is when only the top screen needs to be shown. This took a while to edit for each episode, and then I started figuring out more efficient ways of doing it. Still took a while, and still took a while to render too. Starting to cram, I was writing that in the rough draft. Yeah, so like all of this plus the start, I tried to do in one go. Time to edit. So it's basically talking about all of that, just scanning through the footage. Retrospective, when I think about it, I probably should have had everything figured out before starting, but where's that isn't really my thing. And also, where's the fun in learning as you go? Game update, games to beat. Unfortunately, I only beat FTL, Lost Planet, and Spacecom, but to be fair, I did make good progress on the other 3, and I was also super busy. Yeah, SCAD is a pain in the ass. You only have a few weeks per quarter. Like, it's about a third of a standard semester, and it's really absurd. I think it's 10 weeks or less, and you have to do a project every single week. It's absurd. Final thoughts. If you want to get technical, I didn't truly beat FTL. I did, however, get to phase 2 of the boss fight. That's good enough for my book. It really is. The game's left behind. For the games that weren't finished in February, I'll still be aiming to beat them this year. In fact, if my estimates are correct, I should have a few months that aren't dedicated to any specific games. That should hopefully provide me with enough extra time to finish off the stragglers. March's games, Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, Anonymous Notes from the Abyss Chapter 2. That's a really fun DSiWare game. We got that on the 3DS eShop. Gurman 3D is really fun. 8-bit Invaders is like 8-bit armies, except it's a parody of StarCraft. Sorry about the shaking. Hacknet is a game about hacking. It's pretty fun. Transformers War for Cybertron for the PS3. I don't know if I beat that or not. I did get halfway through. So that's good. Alright, so that does it for that. That was 4 pages. And then we have a classic, just a 2-page one. This is April. Refocusing content is not a foreign concept around here. So this is all talk about refocusing my content on, maybe more specific niches or something like that. When I started the 2nd to 12th kind, I knew the one thing I wanted to hold on to was using the old rule of 2 that some Let's Play channels used to do. Will this change? Honestly, maybe. The first refocus actually happened about a year ago or so. For a while, I had a schedule of Let's Plays being on Mondays and Fridays, instead Let's Plays coming out on Wednesdays. I changed this to a daily release schedule, but that was changed after several missed releases. Current system of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1:30 p.m. and sides coming out Tuesday and Thursday. This actually, as we all know, changed into a true daily release system where both main and side Let's Plays came out every single day of the week, thus making 14 videos a week. That is insane. Those who have followed my channel for a while will remember the weekly roundups, weekly video challenges. Those were fun, but I never could figure out what to do with those. Especially weekly roundups. It just ended because I was doing so much prep work for the future that I couldn't really talk about anything on weekly roundups because I didn't want to spoil stuff. Final point, I'm doing one more refocusing of my channel, all that fun stuff. Game update, so oof. March has been a hectic month. I had the last few weeks of my time at SCAD, and then I moved back home, and then I started working on a new website. I actually made a website while I was at SCAD, andrewbdornan.wordpress.com, and it was a photography website, because I knew between that and a website where I wanted to have the home to be my content, the photography website would actually be the easiest. So that got done first, and then I started working on what is now the12thkind.com. It didn't help that it's currently spring. I can't do anything because my allergies keep beating me down. That is true. I have horrible allergies, and they make me incredibly exhausted. Normally this is where I write down new games, but since I didn't beat any of the games in March, I'll carry them over into April. Never did beat Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. I started playing other Pokemon games, and then I focused down to one Pokemon game because I can only play one Pokemon game at a time. It's because they're all so very different. Issue number 6 is May 2019. Originally wanted to write about a different topic. Halfway through it dawned on me that it would spoil a future project. I actually don't remember what that original topic was. Oof, I need a different topic. How about board games? So, at the time I was a part of a Discord server. It's very tea-themed. I eventually left that server because I just couldn't stand how it was being handled. But it did inspire me to make a tabletop RPG called Just a Sip, a terrific RPG. And basically, I wanted to make something that was just very out there. It's still in a work in progress. Sometimes I go back to it and do some more work on it. New stats. So in standard tabletop RPG, you have strength, intelligence, dexterity, constitution, charisma, perception, or wisdom. I changed them to strength is now vigor, intelligence is now brilliance, dexterity is athleticism, constitution is hardiness, charisma is glamour, and perception / wisdom is now awareness. It gets real weird. Like, there's a whole system with beverages and stuff. Current project, Rage War, is an original strategy card game to Rage War. Store version, it's on the Etsy store right now. It's version 0.75. I did try to make a version 1.0, but I ended up breaking the game because I realized that there was no way for you to actually win the game other than not run out of cards first. So I'll have to rethink that. I never did go back to this project, but maybe at some point I should. The game's mechanics is basically card base, all done within Microsoft Word. The cards that I did was a Word template that I downloaded off the internet. And then when I tried making version 1.0, I used Photoshop to make the cards. Quick aside, has been a bit more on the sparse side, but honestly I wasn't sure what else to talk about. About that New Year's goal, good news and bad news. Good news is the goal that I finished 20 games, which was actually really impressive. And it did give me to play more games that were left as not played. But I couldn't go on with it in the current form, so I'm just trying to play whatever. And then also it changed this system. So the sidebar is now the logos of games that I'm playing or were playing for that month. And I actually, Paper Mario Sticker Star, I occasionally go back to that game, but the blooper boss fight is just a pain in the butt, so I'm going elsewhere. Deus Ex Human Revolution, that is a game I beat several times on Legendary. It is so good, I can't sing any more praises about it. Stardew Valley, for obvious reasons, that was like my big project. It came out 111 episodes for year 1, and for year 2 I'm wondering if I should do have it set to be 111 episodes, or maybe make it shorter by only doing weekly. Who knows? And then Pokemon Blue version, I was starting to feel a bit burnt out by modern Pokemon games, so I figured why not go to the one that started it all, Pokemon Blue version. I got that game, a good while back, but I never actually got far in it. And this time around, I figured, I'll actually play it from start to end, and it was actually probably one of the best ideas I ever did. I don't know what it is, but I love Metroidvanias, with my favorite entries in the genre being the Metroid games. So there's actually a process of me covering Metroidvanias. I covered 2 really close together, Metroid Fusion and Metroid Zero Mission, and then a few months later I covered Metroid Samus Returns, which from an editing standpoint is a complete mess, but I do still have all the files, so at some point I would like to re-edit that. But there is a process of trying to pick the right Metroid game to play. So this is basically all the different steps. Have I beaten it before? Do I find it like answering some 4 questions? Present this in a fun way. Then there's the casual run where I don't try to go for 100%, but if I do, I do. The practice run is where I actually go out of my way to get 100%. First time around, it's just me doing it naturally, and then going in with a guide and all that fun stuff. Research. this varies from game to game. So it's like, you know, item locations, how to cheat certain boss fights, maybe some development history or trivia. Development of supplemental graphics. Metroid Fusion never had supplemental graphics. Metroid Zero Mission did, in the form of a little item tracking bar. And Metroid Samus Returns had a little video feed UI that my dad and I worked on to produce, and so it came out really well. Unfortunately, there was something that happened to the file, so I had to reconstruct it from scratch. That was a pain. The outline with Fusion and Zero Mission, I made my notes really vague, but for Samus Returns, I started to get a lot more specific. For something like Metroid Samus Returns, I took the same approach for Heroes of Ruin. In one episode we start a dungeon, get halfway through it. In the next episode we finish the dungeon. The Metroid games are slightly different. An episode or two dedicated to getting all the items that we missed during normal gameplay. Always precede the finale. Yeah, that's the big thing, is once you beat a Metroid game, that's it. You can't go back. So you have to make sure you get 100% before fighting the final boss. Recording, it honestly changes. I know Metroid Samus Returns, there were some issues with Filmora screen, so I started plugging in an HDMI cable from my laptop to the video capture card, which is plugged into my TV, and I started recording it that way. So that was an interesting thing. So how I get menus, how I get the recording synced up if I'm recording gameplay and commentary separately is I open up a menu of sorts that has no background noise and very distinct menu sounds, and I'll go through the menu, and every time I open a menu or select a choice, whatever makes a sound, I go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and that's how I get it synced up, and it works really well. Definitely a lot better than what I used to do with an old capture device. Is I would read off the time signature, and that didn't always work. Editing of a single is long. I start by importing all the video files I need. Used to rename the video files once they got on the timeline to keep editing smooth, but with the advent of using the capture device into chunks, I had to drop that part. Yep, that was a big ol' mess. So as you can see, a lot more layers with Samus Returns than there we go. Then with Heroes of Ruin, because not only do you have the video overlay and the various video focuses, but also you have text and the item trackers themselves. This thing got into a uncontrollable beast in the finale, and it took me 8 hours to edit the finale, like almost a standard workday. And this is just going through more specifically the specifics of editing for that series. Sign off. That's it. That's what it takes to make a Let's Play. It was more so, it evolved into just covering Metroid Samus Returns, because it's far more interesting of a project than like Metroid Zero Mission, and especially Metroid Fusion. So I need to restart the camera because we're getting close to that time limit, and I will be right back. Alright, I'm back, and this is the July 2019 issue. We are going over all of these, so this video is going to be pretty long. So, Gaming and Creating, July 2019, some new Pokemon games were announced. I figured out that I could get access to the Pokemon Press site. So, started reporting on Pokemon. This was a thing that happened for several months. There was just constant Pokemon news. Pokemon Sword and Shield was announced way before E3, but we got more information, screenshots, and footage about those games this E3. Yep, that was my reasoning behind it. So the new mechanics, the max raid battles, Gigantamaxing, which we knew basically nothing about it. Turns out it's basically the equivalent of like what's the word? Mega evolutions. And then max raid battles, some new faces. Hop, your new rival. Sonia and Magnolia, the Therodon phone. Leon. Did you hear I like Charizard? Milo is a buff as hell child, and then of course the queen herself, Nessa. And then just some thoughts. It's like you might be wondering, hey, what about Dexit? Love and hate the term. It's a good pun, but also don't really care about what it stands for. And then also some thoughts on some new Pokemon like Sobble and Yamper and Dreadnought. A big fuck off turtle. I love it. Alright, and then that was basically it. And then just being like more personal ways to support gaming and creating. You can support me on Patreon or Coffee. Alright. Super Mario Run. It's probably the first thing you would have noticed if I didn't immediately call it out. Super Mario Run is actually a really fun mobile game. I played around with the free version and I was like, you know, I could see myself using all the features, so I paid for the full version. This was the August 2019 issue. Let's make a short film. Oh wait, something like discontinued camera action. YouTube channel. Probably have the valid assumption I only like doing Let's Plays and similar projects. However, I actually would like to start making short films. Let's talk about that. The equipment or lack thereof. I got a camera and a microphone. That's about it. Projects to be. What about things to film with this equipment? Been writing scripts for a long time. This is true. First script comes to mind was a 1-minute subtext scene I had to write for a Film 100 course during my time at SCAD. My professor for Film 100 said that it was the best subtext scene he had gotten from my class, and honestly, that it wasn't a high bar, but he did really like it. And I actually, this past semester, I sent that same script to a new professor that I had for TV production, and he also really liked it. But he also had some legitimate notes about how to make it even better. So that's really good. Long-term projects, Heart of the Cards. That was a short film that failed horribly that I made for art appreciation back at my community college, and the professor gave me a perfect score for it, mainly because she was more so impressed with how I always kept her in the loop and I told her exactly what was going down, and she appreciated that more than the final project. Antagonist face along the way. Oh yeah, Galaxy and Fire Alliances. This was something that I wanted to do way back when, and unfortunately this game no longer exists. It was starting to run a deficit, the whales were gone, and so the company just shut it down, which is really unfortunate because I had a lot of fond memories in that game. It's definitely the end of an era. Given the chance, I would love to produce both of these series, but if I had to choose one, I'd go with Heart of the Cards. I want to have the same constantly changing reactionary storytelling. Definitely be a great way to not only produce a narrative series, but also make an original card game to go along with it. Yep. That was not a long issue at all. It was a standard 2 pages. So yeah, Super Mario Run, Star Wars Dark Forces, Halo Reach. I had gotten my own copy of Halo Reach. I now have Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, in addition to Halo 2, Halo 3. Do I have ODST? Yeah, I do. 4 and Reach, all for the 360. So yeah, I just freaking love Halo, man. Alright, ooh, yeah, this one's a doozy. This is issue number 10, September 2019. We got a lot more information, and it was so much so that it pushed it to 8 pages. It was crazy. So, you could say this one was a bit more lazy, because I was just, I copy and pasted the information about the Pokemon from the press kit that I had released. And I had to wait a while after like the videos would drop, just because of like they released it elsewhere first. And then I gave my opinion on the Pokemon, and then introduced the next Pokemon. So we have Galarian Weezing, which is really funny. And Galarian Zigzagoon, Galarian Linu, which I'm really was really happy to see. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, and Obstagoon, the evolution for Galarian Linu, which was really great. New rivals and the antagonists, which was Team Yell. That's all we knew at the time. We didn't know who the big bad was. And then I started getting some team building ideas. So the starter, I went with Sobble. Member 2, Gossifleur, I don't know. Then Yamper, Duraludon, which apparently Gigantamaxes into a freaking skyscraper, which is crazy. Roly-Coly, and of course, my baby, Galarian Zigzagoon. And then also, talking about the competitive side built into Sword and Shield with tournaments and stuff. That was really cool. New abilities and items. And all that crazy stuff. The room service, eject pack, all that fun stuff. The send off, and then standard shilling. Oh man, Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron, Star Wars Battlefront Renegade Squadron, those games. Man, I love those games. And I definitely played the heck out of them during that month. They're just good nostalgia fuel. Alright, yeah. We've got time to go over these last 2 issues. Issue 11, October 2019, I'm contractually should be obligated, to write about spooky games. It's the law. This is me. I even made I didn't make the same mistake up here, but I made it down there. Favorite spooky games, Resident Evil Revelation. I played the hell out of that on 3DS, and I still go back to play the raid mode. Super great. I friggin' love it. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. I am a baby when it comes to horror games, and so I often drop it, but I still love the hell out of it. Starship Damery. I think I got before Resident Evil Revelations, and I think it was actually the first ever horror game that I beat, and it's such a good game. It's so atmospheric. I love it. And then, to interrupt the spooky vibes of the newsletter, we actually got a lot more information about Pokemon, specifically Pokemon Camp, customization options, and Curry. And then also I was approached by an indie dev asking if I wanted to play their game 3000 Duel, and I have a whole list of indie games that I need to write about at some point. It's, oh boy, the list just keeps getting longer. First Impressions 3000 Duel. The name, don't quite care for it, but and in fact I was like, I don't know, and then I saw the logo and I was like, I don't know, but then I requested a key and played through it. An NDA for September 27, 2019. Well, this was gonna come out after that anyways. And I thought it was just going to be okay, but actually it was a lot of fun and really challenging. It is basically if Dark Souls was a side-scroller. And then that was actually it. Also, I never wrote about it because I didn't have enough time to form a strong opinion. But during that month, I was playing Alien Isolation for the PS3. And good golly, that game is fun. And then this is it. This is issue 12, the end of volume 1. So volume and review of this basically, did I stay true to the central themes of gaming and creating, basically did topic quality, when look at these topics and issues objectively. Issue 5, changes to the channel, and issue 6, making games are easily the weakest. I still stand by that. Strongest are easily issue 8, thoughts on new Pokemon, and issue 10, Pokemon update and team building. There were definitely more topics on creating than gaming as a whole. That's something I would like to work on balancing for volume 2. And I did do a good job balancing that. Because a good, like, I would say the fact that I think there were only, yeah, well, there were 2 topics in issue 1 that of volume 2 that really honed in on creating. I think as a whole, I definitely tried to push more and more towards the gaming side to kind of balance out what I did in volume 1. The future, I do want there to be a second volume, but I also want to make sure you guys want there to be a second volume. And the reason why I put this up for a vote was because I knew for a fact I was going to be transitioning over into this new format. And so I wanted to know, before I started spending all of the ink and paper to make this, that people actually wanted it. And it seemed at the time that they did. And this actually went from a monthly release to a bi-monthly release. So instead of, you know, it being for November, it actually was for December/January, and it came out in February. And so there were supposed to be 6 issues released, or December or January, yeah, and I think it came out in February most likely. Supposed to be 6 issues that released, but I don't think it got past issue 3. So, yeah, maybe there might be a part 3 where I go over volume 2 in more detail, because we did look through this quite a bit, and there are some more issues of volume 3 that would be interesting to look over. And then in part 1 we looked over pen and paper news. So I definitely found a good focus with gaming and creating. Unfortunately, one of the things, not only did I stop getting a lot of feedback for gaming and creating, and it was really hard to get people to respond to the feedback form requests, but also I realized that I had a hard time deciding if I should advertise this or not. And I realized that it's such a niche thing, because you have to, like, a prerequisite to gaming and creating was that you had to already be someone who enjoyed my YouTube content and like my style of writing and commentary, and then on top of that you had to be willing to go through such an intense process of signing up for a free newsletter. And, you know, you would get, in my opinion, it would be a lesser experience to get this in digital form than physical form, but I'm also a physical copy kind of person. I do have a lot of games on Steam and GOG and Origin and Epic Game Store, and those are all digital, but if I had the chance to have physical copies of those games, I would have physical copies of those games. I think Volume 1 definitely was, you could get away with just a digital format. But with this, I ended up, because I still wanted people to experience what it was like to hold this in their hands, I sent them 2 copies. One where it was just like a page at a time in a PDF, and then another where you could actually print it out yourself. So that was that. That's my story with newsletters. If there is to be a part 3, so I'm not gonna like put like finale or whatever, I'm just gonna put part 2. But if there were to be a part 3, I would definitely continue going over volume 2. I would talk about the next 2 issues. But yeah, this video was definitely very long. I think I restarted the camera 4 times, I'm not sure. Or I hit the record button 4 times, I think. But anyways, yeah, so I'm really glad to have shared this with you. I actually got these printed out last night, and honestly, it's just kind of nice to have these physical copies in my possession again, because I never kept copies for myself. I would just print out a copy, proof it. If it was garbage, I threw it away, and I printed out the final copy, and then that went straight out. So it's kind of nice to have that in my hands. And then I had to print out issue 3, which is why it looks nicer than issues 1 and 2 of Pen and Paper News. So yeah, that is going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, and I might see you in part 3, or before then, you will probably get a blooper reel of the next video essay whenever that comes out. The video essay should be out by this Friday, the 31st. So the blooper reel will probably come out a few days after. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to me talking about my old newsletters for a long ass time. And I will see you in a future video. Bye-bye.